Back again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fourth TV. I hope you guys are doing well. If you're asking me just on, I think a personal perspective, doing all right. Not doing too bad. I think if we're talking at it from a football perspective, could be better. I think, yeah, I don't know what really more you want me to say. We'll get on to the absolute, defensive calamity that was Grimsby Town Football Club eventually. But we'll head to, I say we head, we've got Luke with us, the only member of the team. So, I mean, we've all been somewhat very busy. I mean, a bit busy later, but it's all going on. But anyway, how are you? How are things?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying that winning feeling, being the only one on the team with a winning team on Saturday. So I'm gonna gloat with that a little bit. Just gotta bring that up instantly.
And yeah, look, as I said to you yesterday, it's all about sharing's caring, isn't it? I mean, but eventually, I wouldn't care. But it's nice to share the spoils around. You can brag about, oh yeah, my team. Well, look at all you lot that's lost, or well, in Jake's case, drew. But yeah, nice feeling, I've got to admit.
Oh yeah, it's very nice, and yeah, I mean, I'm gutted I wasn't there, but I will be there on Tuesday. So hopefully we can follow it up.
It's a good job that you've not said you're there next Saturday. We'll head to that. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh god. Yeah. Okay. Well, talk a bit more in a bit about that. Right. Let's talk about this weekend's games. Quite a bit that's gone on, as always. We'll probably start with Port Vale doing very well. We know at the minute they're so many games unbeaten. That's me, not with the lack of preparation. At 8 unbeaten, 6 wins, including another one yesterday, a 3-1 victory against Fleetwood Town. Another very good win. I know we're probably saying this a lot with Port Vale at the minute, but they just look a side that are just, they're banging, they've got bags of confidence and a load of belief that, they can score goals. And they're very efficient, obviously, with their players and with their signings. I thought they took the goals pretty well, especially Crowsdale's second. I think, yeah, I mean, they just look the right force at the minute. I know we said this with maybe Gillingham, and we'll get to them eventually a few weeks back, but, it doesn't look like there's a sign of Port Vale slowing down at the minute. I think, a Fleetwood side in which, I've been full of praise of. I think on paper, I think they've got one of the best teams in the division. So it's no mean feat. It's another very good result for them, and rightly so, top of the league.
Oh yeah, no, like that's exactly what confidence does, and that's how they're getting through these results at the minute. They're just playing with confidence, using the momentum they've had from their previous results, and I mean they're being clinical with it. Essentially, I think they only had actually 3 shots on target, and every single one of them went in. And it's that sort of ruthlessness that can really sort of propel you up the table, and obviously it has, because they are top of the table. So I do still have a couple of concerns defensively. The goal they did concede, marking in the box again. It's a similar issue with them when a lot of the goals they concede look quite similar in that sense. It's just someone totally unmarked in the box. So it's something to watch, but nothing to be too concerned about while they're playing as well.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't think, a goal they've conceded like that is exactly at the forefront of their mind at the minute. Albeit maybe a tad disappointing, but I think for the way that he just lost his man, it's a really good cross eventually. But I just look at the goals I did take. I mentioned Crowsdale's 1-4. I think it was for 2-1. Ronan Curtis with a really good header. It was a really good run in for him to head that ball from across from Ben Garrity. But even the first one from Rico Richards, great last name, by the way. Just even that was a pretty smart finish. And we've been praising Port Vale the last few weeks, but they really are getting it right at the minute. I think you can see the experience in the squad. You can see the manager with the experience. It just seems like a very good win, albeit the game didn't look the best. I think if you look at it based on stats, it probably looked a bit even, 50-50 around that. Not much in the game if you're basing it off that, but it looked like Port Vale, as you mentioned, had 3 shots on target. and score 3 goals. I don't think they'll be complaining too much about that. As for Fleetwood, look, I've been full of praise for them. They they've done all right, I think, for what they have done. I think they're a little bit hit and miss, maybe at times, probably not to the extreme of maybe some other teams. They'd have a really good result, then they might draw one, and then I think that was their only it was the second defeat yesterday. So all in all, I think if we're judging by their start, it's not been terrible, albeit they played a few games less. Few draws in there. Maybe if they could maybe turn a couple of those into wins. I mean, it could be a different story. But I think if you're looking at it from a Fleetwood perspective, I don't think it's the worst of starts.
Oh yeah, no, it's really not. And I think even just this result in isolation, it's really not that bad. You've been, beaten on the road by top of the league, essentially. And I don't actually think they were that far off it in that game. It's just, like I said before, Port Vale had this sort of ruthlessness to them that Fleetwood obviously don't quite have at the minute. But they really weren't that far off the pace, and the performance was there. It's just, like I said, they've come up against a very good side. So I think they'll bounce back pretty quickly.
Coming up against a good side that are tough to break down. I've got a load of goal threat, as I've said. But, they've got a load of goal threat themselves. I do look at players like Kean Harriott, Ryan Graydon, Ronan Coughlin is another one that's been a standout for them. There was another one whose name escapes me. He used to play for Plymouth. He's Danny Mayer. That's the one. They've got him, haven't they? He's a terrific player. Look, they're just a very good side. I particularly have always been under the impression of I'm not sure about Charlie Adam, but I think let's see what he can do, because there's clearly a good squad there. Some potential in that squad. Could maybe hold its own. I say hold its own in League One, like they didn't get relegated last year. A bit like Port Vale, to be fair, but I think they've changed it a little bit. And some good players for League Two level, I think, are exceptional. But I don't think there's any shame in losing to Port Vale with the run they're on at the minute. They look like, as I've mentioned, a real force who are going really well at the minute. I do take an eye on their next game. They've got a trip to Harrogate, do Port Vale. So I think they'll be backing themselves again in that one, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Got Wimbledon after that. I think it's at the minute, good time to be a Port Vale fan at the minute. It certainly seems the case. I don't think it's too bad time to be a Doncaster Rovers supporter at the minute either. A 2-1 victory against Swindon Town yesterday, albeit very late, with a Joe Ironside penalty. Unbelievable save from the Swindon Town outfielder. I couldn't exactly tell who it was. Because he got booked. I think he got booked for it. Was Freckleton. I think it was him. God knows why. It's literally from a corner, it's shades of Luis Suarez, basically, in the World Cup in 2010. But that's what good teams do. They find a way, albeit if they maybe giving out Joe Alowu. Yeah, I should have needed to make sure I say that right. Good header from a corner there. Swindon's goal, I thought they took that pretty well with Harry Smith. Just away from home, again, stats probably look like they favoured in Doncaster's favour. They left it late, but 3 points on the road, not complaining too much.
Yeah, exactly. You just grind out the result. Like, they weren't as dominant as they probably could have been. They probably could have put the game to bed a lot sooner than they did. But at the end of the day, it's a win, and on the road, and good sides win without being at their best, essentially, and that's what they've done there.
I mean, Doncaster have done all right on the road, so to speak. I mean, obviously the victory at Swindon, they beat us. Lesser at that one. But I do look at some of the other ones. Got 1-1 draw at MK Dons. They beat Port Vale away. Was another one, albeit lost to Newport in earlier on in the season. So it's not bad. Maybe a little bit better, but it's decent because the home form has been pretty solid as well. They're now unbeaten in 4, winning their last 3. So they've sort of picked it up a little bit because they had that little bit of a blip period where they obviously, they lost to Harrogate, drew with MK, as I mentioned, and then lost to Chesterfield in interesting circumstances when they were reduced to 9 men in that one. But I think you'd have probably expected him to win. I think certainly going into it against a Swindon side, albeit they won last week. But I think if you was a betting man, I think you'd probably favour Doncaster. If I'm going to be honest, albeit it probably wasn't convincing, maybe at the best of times. But last minute penalty from Joe Ironside, which is dispatched brilliantly, by the way. I don't think there'll be many disgruntled Doncaster fans, I think, to say the least. For Swindon, I think it's a right sucker punch. I think they're just trying to find like new creative ways to like drop points and just lose games. That penalty is not great looking at it. And I mean, it would have been a very good point. Actually, I think it would have been a very good point. Doncaster, one of the best sides in the league, will be right up there for sure. But they've kicked themselves right in the foot, right at the end, which must be frustrating for them. Because oh my god, I'd be very upset if I were them.
Oh yeah, no, you have to. The frustrating thing is they showed great resolve just to get back into the game against one of the top sides in the division, just to then go throw it away right at the very end. Every game is a new low with Swindon at the minute. They just need something, just anything to get them going again. That could have been it, but as I said, it's just that last minute threw it all away.
Yeah, and I think they've only got them really themselves to blame for it. I mean, we did look at. They won last week. They won at Cheltenham 3-2. They were 3-0 up, nearly throw that away. That would have been something. But we've been very critical of Swindon this year. With some of their results and somewhat with what they've really done on the pitch, because it's not been the best of times at the minute. I still have my doubts on Mark Kennedy. The fact they're still the 21st, which is, I think, for Swindon is unacceptable. But even with that, it's a decline I've seen coming for quite a while off, and I think it's only going to get worse until there's major change at the club. I've always been said that. They're really weird. I mean, I think there might have been full value for a point. Actually, I think I'll probably go as far as say as that. I mean, like I said, that the way they moved the goal for Harry Smith's equaliser is a good move. It proves what Swindon can do. We even saw it last week, albeit against I think Cheltenham, who are probably not the best side in the division either. We've seen glimpses of what they can do potentially with some of the players that they have got, because they're on paper some good players there. But it is. I don't know what more you want me to say really. It's a killer. It's a killer. But ultimately, we look at it in isolation. 21st place, as I mentioned, for Swindon, 11 points from 12 games. I think I might be wrong in saying this, but I'll probably say it anyway. It's probably that it's their I think it's Swindon's lowest ever position that they are at the minute. It's just all a bit bleak. I know they go to Salford in midweek, and they've got a game against Gillingham next week, and we'll get on to Gills because they're an interesting one. But it's just all very bleak, isn't it? I mean, there's not much to cheer, and just sort of just let down. I think very late in games, in which has cost them points, and it has done a few times this season now.
Oh yeah, no, it has, and like I said, I think they just need one moment or just something just to get themselves going, a platform they can build off. And without that, they're just going to keep struggling, and the longer you struggle in this division, especially when they're already down in 21st, that's when things start to get a little bit precarious. You're already seeing Accrington start to pick up points, Morecambe start to pick up points aside from Saturday. These teams are suddenly starting to find form, at least enough to pick up a few points, get themselves out of those bottom two spots. Because at the end of the day, there are only 2 relegation spots, and you have to be really, really bad to get relegated out of this division. There's no other way of putting it. You have to be a total mess, And I think that's what Swindon are at the minute, to be fair.
Oh, I mean, we've done it twice, so I think we sort of know what mess looks like. It's not nice. It's not nice. Truth be told, you've got to be proper shit to be relegated from this league. I mean, we've seen the last few years. I mean, truth be told, other than maybe the odd couple, a lot of teams that have gone down have been somewhat basket cases of football clubs. I feel like Swindon are somewhat following a similar pattern to that at the minute, as much as I hate to say it. But that it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, I somewhat look at Forest Green last year, as much as they spent so much money, and I think the whole season. I mean, there's probably different ways of defining basket cases, but Forest Green, the amount of managers they had last season didn't really settle one until, Steve Cottle came in. But by then it was just too little too late, and they've only got themselves to blame for it. I mean, Sutton was a little bit different. I wouldn't really say they're anything, but I think look at previous clubs that have been relegated from it. Oldham, Scunthorpe, clubs that have had their problems. I mean, Swindon certainly do, but probably not to the extent of some of them. But it's once you're in that rut, it's difficult to get out of. And as you say, with some teams around them starting to pick up points a little bit, if Swindon can't find that consistent run, I think it goes for any team. I mean, especially Bromley at the minute. Again, one we'll touch on. But if teams don't, get a little bit of a run in the next like month or two, getting a few wins along the way, there's going to be trouble. It's as simple as that. I've always been want to see. I don't want to see Swindon go down. I think they're a decent club, but the way they're headed, I'm struggling to see it. Over if it's not this year, if nothing changes, it'll be next few years. I feel pretty confident in that, but that's just where we are at the minute. Right, we'll move on from that one. I guess we better get ours out of the way, haven't we? Look, I think as a podcast, we got told by Ryan, who obviously edits our podcasts, that that the timings of it are creeping up a little bit, and yeah, they are. And I think maybe a part of that is down to my ramblings with my football club. So I think to keep it nice and sweet, mainly the second half performance, defensive particular alone, I'd just call it bollocks, to be quite honest. Luke, I want to hear what you think before I go any further, because to be honest, I don't really have much to say, but what I do say, I mean, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that opening statement, to be fair. I mean, a second half collapse like that is unacceptable for any team. There's no other way of putting it, especially at home. I mean, Walsall were effectively walking through the Grimsby defence by the end of it, and it's that sort of head loss towards the end of games. Like, even if you are losing or you've had a setback, you have to at least show some kind of resolve, some kind of fight, just to not let it escalate further. But I suppose it all kind of went to pot with the passing error for the second goal. I think that's probably what did it, because that was, I mean, it was a wonder strike, fair play. Like, it was a brilliant goal from a Walsall perspective. But from a Grimsby perspective, that was very easily preventable. Just don't play the pass. Simple as that.
I think you mentioned the second goal, but I think there were problems before that even. Look, I said to you, at half time, there was absolutely nothing in the game. It was two sides, just very even. Not a lot of chances, very little separating the two sides. I know Rosie had one in particular, which forced a save. Could he maybe have looked for maybe the pass, maybe? But, as a striker, he's got every right to shoot that. But I can't fathom that collapse second half, that we've done it at home again. The first one, Denver Hume doesn't close. Look, as much as Denver Hume is very good at creating chances, he's a pretty decent crosser of the ball. He's good with the ball. He cannot defend to save his life. It's truth be told. I saw a comment that if he can defend, he'd probably be playing, Championship or probably top end League One, like he was for Sunderland and Portsmouth a few years ago. But the same thing goes, if my nan had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, look, Jamil Matt with the header. I fucking hated him at Town. He was garbage. He's clearly done. Look, it sounds like I'm being salty, but he's clearly done all right since then. That second goal from Jamie Jealous, I want to say it was. Look, unbelievable strike. Unbelievable. He's hit that so well. It should have never have come to that in the first place. What on earth is that ball from Lewis Cass? It is absolutely criminal. To just find him on the edge and trying to switch. It came from our throwing as well. That's what is even worse about it. The third goal is a mess. We can't. How many goals have we? I really want to know how many goals we've conceded from like corner situations this season, because it's piss poor, to be quite honest. And that was piss poorly defended. Nathan Lowe's been a player I've been a huge fan of, and he's been there to tuck that away. I'll be honest, completely missed Donovan Wilson's goal. I just saw that he had an open net from the goalkeeper, but I was just on my phone about that. But I did see Walsall's fourth before I decided it was probably the correct time to go home. After that, look, we can blame injuries all we want, and yes, there's a lot of them. One or two more yesterday from looking at it. But to fold at home again, it's really irritating because I've seen this quite a lot at home now, especially in the last year. I mean, you just have to take at the Walsall game from last season, the one we lost 6-1. Both games against Doncaster from this season and last season, lost 5-1 last year and lost 3-0 and lost 3-0 this season. The game was done in 10 minutes. In that Walsall one, in that Doncaster one, sorry, we're 2-0 down. We see. I'm just bored to death of. I get it's a process, but you cannot go 1-0 down and then crumble. As soon as you know it's 2, 3, 4. Seen that a few times. Notts County, albeit a couple of dodgy decisions have gone away, we still conceded 2, 3, 4. A couple of others. I mean, the amount of goals we're conceding now is getting to real concerning levels. I think only Carlisle and Newport have conceded more goals than us, and we're 10th. I mean, look, not taking up. Look, we've been great. We've been great I think we've been great on the whole. We're 10th after 12 games. I'd have snapped your hand off at the start of the season for that. We're just really inconsistent. We're consistently inconsistent. I think is probably there's no in between. I sent you that clip. You probably know that clip from sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. It sums us up perfectly, genuinely. It's so frustrating because, like I said, there was absolutely nothing in that game first half. I think you can tell, especially on like 60 minutes onward, you could tell that Walsall were, they're up there for a reason. They probably they turned it up a gear, and you can see why they're up there. They're probably taking the right piss at one stage, like back heels and Cruyff turns, and it's like I should have left earlier, really, because I just can't fathom that. As a defensive performance, that's unacceptable. It just is. I've got no more words to say about that. Need a response at Tranmere on Tuesday, and if we don't, then the last thing I want is having something against to be on a hammering against you lot next week. But we'll hit more about that when it comes. Just a quick one on the Walsall perspective. Very good win away from home into the top 3. They do look a good side. I do give them that, but for a while I think we matched them. But once we conceded that first one, we just fell apart. I think actually their quality did show quite a fair bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've bided their time away from home, and when the chances did eventually come, they took them. Sometimes that's all you need to do. And I mean, scoring 4 against anyone in this division away from home is decent. Like you can't really argue too much with that. I will say, this is the third time I'm going to be calling out Simkin in goal for a mistake. I realised the ball to him was a bit dodgy anyway, but even so, he had to get rid. Come on now. They're like this is the third time already where he's made the mistake. So there are cracks in goal, in my opinion. I think if you can generate chances against him, that keeper has a mistake in him. But you've obviously got to get past the rest of their team to do that.
I mean, look, I'll be honest. I did say I missed most of it. I just see the ball at Wilson's feet, and he had an open goal, and he tapped it in. I didn't even bother looking for that, so I couldn't tell you what he did, to be honest. But I'll take your word for it, because that means I've got to go through the highlights again, and I'd rather not. from that. But we need a result. We need a response on Tuesday because as a performance, especially defensively, nowhere near good enough. Absolutely nowhere near. Right, we'll move on from that. Let's touch on MK. You know, they're not doing too bad at the minute. Gone away at Morecambe 3-1 winners. Didn't take you long to open the scoring with through Thompson. Scott Hogan, I believe, scoring his first goal. Am I right in saying? And then there's that one. This is actually a game I've forgotten to watch the highlights to. Actually, I mean, I watched every others, but this was I can't believe I've forgotten this one. I mean, you said one there, but you know what can you say about that one?
Well, it's just a solid away performance from us. Really, it's the sort of performance we needed to see. I think we needed to see a side that looked confident going forward. And I mean, you score 3 goals, you know, away from home against anyone, you can definitely be happy with that. And I think it's also the players specifically that scored. Those were important goals. I mean, Tomlinson's probably not had his best season. He's gone and scored this penalty. Hogan's just joined, gets his first goal. And from what I'm hearing, he looks absolutely quality. It's just getting enough minutes into him to actually play him every game, because I'd be surprised if he starts on Tuesday, to be honest, because it's going to take a while to get him up to speed properly. And then Liam Kelly, and you have to go back and watch the highlights for that, because that was a brilliant goal from Kelly, long range, off the bar and in. And he's needed a moment to that one spark to get him going, because we need to see Crawley's Liam Kelly. What we've seen at Dons hasn't quite been the same as of yet. He's still very clearly got quality. We just haven't necessarily seen him at his best, and hopefully this is a sign of the times turning in our favour. Hopefully, all of that coming together with the return of players like Nico Lawrence, who again was supposed to be outstanding yesterday. It's all sort of clicking at the right time. So hopefully we can maintain that going into the next couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, I did see the highlight. I did see the highlights, truth be told. Yeah, it does feel like I'm somewhat making this up as I go along. What I was meant to say, I did see Kelly's goal. It is a very good goal, I have to admit. You mentioned about Kelly. I mean, you mentioned the fact that maybe you probably haven't seen, the best of him yet. I think it's a great opportunity now, obviously, with back with Scott Lindsay, the gaffer. In which he had great success with last season. I think it's fair to say. I think coming up against this Morecambe side, I think for where they are at the minute, and I think with the somewhat decent form that MK are on, potential banana skin. I think it's probably they've proven the case for a lot of teams this season. Probably not had the rub of the green as maybe they'd have liked. But it's a victory away from home. I mean, you got off to the best possible start with that penalty. And it looked like that, it looked pretty solid away performance. Whereas looking at Morecambe, I do somewhat look at it. I mean, look, the bottom of the table again now. I mean, Carlisle have gone above them with that draw against Harrogate. But, I mean, just the one victory all season, albeit it came last week against Barrow. But I mean, their next couple of games, I look at AFC Wimbledon, Chesterfield. They've got a pretty tough couple of games coming up now. What is your impression of them? Look, I think we always knew it was always going to be a struggle this season. I think even with someone like Derek Adams, but what do you think? What do you think of them at the minute? I think, what did you make to them, especially with that one from whatever you saw?
Yeah, I think the problem with them is correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've won a game at home this season yet.
The victory was away at Barrow.
Yeah, so they've not won at home. And, if you can't win at home, that's where the majority of your points tend to come for most teams more often than not. I mean, to be fair, it was a mistake at the beginning from Stuart Moore in goal. So they were on the back foot from the off, really. They were always having to chase the game. And they did well to get back into it. Marking from us for that goal was very poor, but we've spoken about us already. But no, so they did well to get themselves back into the game. It's just a couple of moments from quality on our part. Saw the end of them, I suppose. But I really think it's just that home form. They need something at home because, like I said, if you can't win at home, you can't rely on away performances, and that's why they're down there at the minute. I don't know who the next home game is, but
yeah, they just need that spark, don't they? And it's something that they've not really had for the. But like I've said, I think at times I think they have been unlucky. I've said that for quite a few podcasts. They just need that one thing. Their next home game is Chesterfield, but they go to, like I said, they go to AFC Wimbledon in the week. They're two tough games. They're two really tough games. Wimbledon will want a response after losing at Notts County yesterday, and Chesterfield aren't doing too bad themselves at the minute, even more so with their 3-0 win at Newport on Friday night. So yeah, they just need it. They just need that one. They need a couple more wins, really, let alone at home. I think any win, I think they'll probably take at the minute. But yeah, it's probably not a good place if you're going to home at the minute. But a good win for MK. Bradford, they're doing all right. Gillingham at the minute, not doing all right. I think it's probably fair to say Bradford coming out 2-1 winners in this one. I mean, Gillingham took the lead. I thought it was a very nice finish from Jaden Clark. But they sort of just, I think the two Bradford goals, I think, are interesting. I mean, I think I'm right in saying the first one came from a corner. It was quite deep into the back post, and Neil Byrne was there. And then their eventual winner from Jack Shepherd is one of my favourite goals of the season. Just a little bit of pinball between, the inside the box from head, and it's going everywhere. Full to Jack Shepherd at the edge of the box, it just twats it into the top corner. It is unbelievable that. But for Bradford, I think 3 wins in a row, 4 unbeaten in total. If we're counting that draw with Morecambe, going on, really picking up after going obviously 4. Well, if after losing 2 after. This is a mess. Look, they've won 3 in a row. I mean, they're 4 unbeaten if you count Morecambe. But if we also count Morecambe as well, they failed to win the last 4 before that. Got there in the end. Yeah, look, 3 wins in a row against a Gillingham side. We'll touch on them a little bit, but a lot of praise has to go to Bradford in a minute.
Oh, it really does. I mean, this was a very professional performance, and actually, the second goal was a passage of play following a corner as well. So very strong on set pieces. Even if you clear the ball once, it's not necessarily gone. And I think that works with their style of play quite well as well. They're quite a physical side, so being able to really push those scenarios on teams is really going to help them. But yeah, like I said, it was just a really controlled performance against. I mean, Gillingham are a strong side; they are out of form, but they're still a decent side. So it's a good win. And to be honest, they could have actually won the game by more with the chances they had. The very, very strong performance.
Yeah, they had a couple of others, didn't they? And I think if we're judging on stats again alone, I think they certainly had the better of the chances and more of them. But as I did see that they probably could have had 1 or 2 more. We do need to just touch on Gills. I think we talked about after the defeats to Grimsby and that Crewe. I think we probably just put it down to a little bit of a blip week. It happens. They obviously then go and lose at home late to Accrington Stanley, where we're maybe thinking that's not a great result at all. But now that they've lost, it's their 4th defeat in a row. We've got all the, they've got all the quality there, but I think if you lose 4 in a row, I don't think it's a blip. I really don't. I think it's somewhat gone a little bit too far for that. I think they're probably grateful that I think there's still a long way to go. We're in mid-October. There's still a lot of football to be played. I still expect Gillingham to be in and around there, but you can't help but think that 4 defeats in a row is a concern at the minute, because that's certainly what I think.
Well, yeah, I think there's maybe a little bit of panic going in, and as you say, they clearly do have the quality. I mean, the move for the opening goal was really, really good, so the quality is clearly there. It's just the confidence or whatever. I think they've been hit by a couple of injuries as well, but I think perhaps they're just panicking a little bit. I think there were 6 changes to their starting 11 for this game, which to me is a lot. Even if even if a couple of them are forced, you then don't change the rest of the team because you don't want things to become disjointed. And I think that's maybe what's happened there. I can appreciate that, yes, you may need to tweak things when you're on a poor run of form, but you still need to have some kind of base there. The spine of your team should still remain in place. Otherwise, you're just always going to be on the back foot, always having to work through the change, and that's not really what you want to do. You want to build it up, minor tweaks, just little corrections. You don't want to have to make wholesale changes.
Yeah, maybe perhaps, but I think what I'm looking at, is pretty close to obviously their starting team. I mean, other than I'm not sure how much of a starter Ollie Hawkins is, if I'm going to be honest, but I think there's quite a lot of them in which our starters. I mean, I get the potential rotation. A lot of football's been played, especially if we're heading into a double game week as we are this week. I can somewhat get it. It's just important you don't really do it too much, obviously, with the players that you do have. But I just I look at their next couple of games in particular. I mean, I said this when they played Accrington, Stanley, and how much I thought it was a great opportunity with them being at home to get back to winning ways. Their next two games, they've got Newport on Tuesday, who are very hit and miss at the minute. They're a little bit like Grimsby, to be fair. There's no in between with them at all at the minute, and then they've got Swindon, in which they go to them. I mean, look, we've already discussed Swindon on this podcast. I think if you're probably looking at them, I think there's two opportunities there in which is a real good chance to get some points on the board, but it's got to happen, I think, sooner rather than later, because I think the longer this run goes on, I think the more it gets a little bit of concern. But I think like I said, I think there is, they'd rather do it now than probably not the last couple of months of the season. Because obviously if that happened, in which very much in the thick of it, it could be a real problem. But we're still 11, 12 games in. Still a lot of time to go, a lot of football to be played. I don't think they may be too concerned at the minute, but I do think it's a cause for a little bit of concern. I think especially with the pressure on Gillingham, with the money they spent, with the squad they've got. I think the pressure's there on them to be definitely in and around the mix. I think they have to. Look, if they don't even make playoffs, it's a complete failure. They've addressed the problems what they needed to last year, but they need to stop this somewhat very quickly, because if it continues somewhat in the manner it has, it could become a problem, I think, pretty quickly. Not too much of a problem at the minute, but it could be one if they don't sort it real soon. But a fully deserving win for Bradford. We'll head for a break, and once we get back, we'll discuss. I think we probably need to look at Bromley. Obviously, they're not doing too great at the minute. A couple of others. I mean, Chesterfield, they picked up a good win on Friday night, and obviously Notts County, you picked up a very impressive home win, albeit in scrappy circumstances, probably against AFC Wimbledon. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back to Fourth Day Fever. Hope you guys are still with us. We'll head over to Meadow Lane for Notts County against AFC Wimbledon. Just the one goal that decided this one from Matty Platt in the 67th minute. A very scrappy goal from a corner, but I don't think Notts County will care too much. It's 3 points. Didn't look the best of the games, probably in terms of quality either. A few impressive saves from Alex Bass in between that as well for the Magpies. I think, good sides just find a way to win. And, Wimbledon have been, on the whole, been pretty impressive this season. But good teams find a way to win. And that's what certainly Notts County did yesterday, is what I think.
Oh, yeah, exactly that. They dealt with the pressure that AFC brought, relatively well. Obviously, as you said, Bass was required for a few saves. But, they still did relatively well defensively. I think they will still be a little bit disappointed that they didn't create as many chances as they could, albeit against a side that is tough to break down, to be fair. But it is a win, and it's a clean sheet at home. So it's another day at the office in the end. It's just one of them. You just got to grind out the result.
Yeah, and eventually that's what, you're never going to play the prettiest football every week. You're never going to beat teams 3 or 4-0 every week, as much as we all love. Sometimes you proper got to put in a shift against a side in which I think, largely speaking, on the whole this season have been very tough to break down. that's what Wimbledon have been. They've been, quite a force defensively. They can score the odd goal as well. I mean, we saw it against Carlisle last week, but they're, obviously their problems I think are clear to see at the minute. But sometimes you just got to find that little bit of resolute, and I think for an opposition team attacking that, and eventually it might come if you do the right things. And look, albeit as I said, the goal is not one that will go down in the history books. It won't go down as goal of the season or anything like that. But the main important thing for Notts County is that it's gone in and they held out and they claimed 3 points. I do look at some of the chances Wimbledon had. I mean, I looked at the ones that Notts County had. There was a couple, I just remember that one from the goal trick, that really good move from Jacob Bedia in particular. It's just it was. But look, Bass, they did have their chances. Bass was, like I said, I think instrumental for a couple of them. Some good saves in that. I just look at one in the second half where the Wimbledon player, I think, it's a lovely ball. He's clean through on goal, and it's just really weak. It's just straight at Bass, in which see, those are the sort of moments in games that are key, and they just did take that one. But look, we've always said that not many teams will go to Meadow Lane and pick up 3 points. I mean, Port Vale have this season, Gillingham have. I still think Notts County will be a problem for teams, and we've seen it obviously this season so far with the fact that they're sitting fourth. But just a quick one on Wimbledon for you.
Well, yeah, I think that chance you're alluding to was Kelly's 1-on-1, which for me he absolutely has to do better with. He had so much time. All you had to do was Bass was so far away. All you had to do was take a step to the side and curl it round him. I'd
be pulling my hair out if that was any of our players. It's the fact that he's not got enough power on that, or even just a little bit more composure.
Yeah, just no composure whatsoever. I mean, that had to be a goal 10 times out of 10, and that's not just me saying that because of who I support. That had to be a goal. And I will say on the goal, I think it was defended poorly. To be fair, I mean it's trickled in through the middle of the goal. The goalkeeper's doing a little bit of a jig in the middle of the goal. Had plenty of time to stop it and didn't. Very scrappy. I mean, fair play because, like I said, they don't concede many chances, but when that's the one you do concede, it's not great. But still, a 1-0 loss against, as you say, strong opposition. Can't complain too much. They probably will bounce back from it.
They probably will, and I think you probably back them with the start that Wimbledon have made this season. Albeit that a couple of games have had good opportunity next in midweek where they've got Morecambe, as I've mentioned, and then I mean at the weekend they've got that tricky trip to Port Vale, which could be another interesting one. But I'm not ruling anything out of AFC Wimbledon yet. I think there's been glimpses to see that they can be a good side and very much can be in the top 7 argument. I feel that highly about them, but I'd be disappointed with the goal. I'd just be disappointed with a couple of things that maybe they did yesterday, in which weren't ruthless enough. I mean, and then the goal. I did see the goalkeeper. That was quite something, just a little jig from that. Just before we do continue as well, just something just to really touch, just to mention. Obviously, I think we've probably all seen the news about Kedwin Scott in the week. The fact he's taking some time off. He's with his mental health problems that he's had, so he's going to be taking some time off to get help for that. I mean, we can only commend him for his actions for that. I think I tweeted on the account. I think the first step is always the bravest, but the biggest, and it's just so true. It's just what it is, and look, we can only wish him the very best with that, and we do look forward to seeing him back on the football pitch. As soon as the time is that. So we send our best wishes towards him. We'll head over to. I wanted to go to Bromley. I mean, look, we've been mentioning how Toothless Tranmere have been. I think it's probably fair to say. I think Toothless has been the word, albeit a little bit late. Probably not as late as like last fight, in stoppage time like that. But late goals from Amari Patrick and Harvey Saunders in the 75th and 80th minute, respectively. I mean, Bromley got that consolation at the end through Louis Dennis. Again, one I forgot to watch the highlights of. I just don't. I sort of just think, right, okay, what games were, what the teams were, and I totally forgot about this one and the other one. Looking at it, I mean, Bromley had more than double the shots of Tranmere, 8 shots on target compared to Tranmere's 3. Tranmere. I didn't think I'd be saying this. Tranmere clinical. That's what it certainly seemed like on there, and certainly I think a much needed win in the league, especially after the recent form they've been on, including without scoring. I think scoring 2 goals, especially away from home. I think might do them a lot of good.
Well, I maybe wouldn't go quite as far as saying clinical, having seen the highlights. Some of the chances
was it that bad?
I mean, put it this way: both teams should have scored long before anyone actually did. How there were no goals before the 70 whatever minute, that I don't know. I really don't know. There were so many chances that were just wasted, and there were a couple of big saves on both goalkeepers' sides, to be fair, but they really had to score before that. In the end, it was Tranmere that showed up with that little bit of quality at the end just to get it across the line. But this game could have been so much more than it ended up being.
Fair enough. I'll take your word for it. That's just what it just proves that, one, stats don't exactly tell the whole story. And 2, actually put some time into doing stuff for this podcast, you total fool, instead of thinking but one thing I think is probably clear to see with Bromley is obviously their run of form. I mean, won the first 2 games of the season, I don't think it could have started any better. Well, they certainly could have picked up 2 wins, but we're nearly in November and they haven't won since. They're just outside of the relegation zone in 22nd. 9 games without a win now. 2 points clear ahead of Carlisle in 23rd. Look, there's a few draws in there, but ultimately they've gone 9 games without a win. I think there's certainly massive cause for concern just from that, albeit them being a recently newly promoted side, and I think at the minute I think I sort of maybe expected a little bit too much from Bromley too soon, if I'm going to be honest, but I thought they'd settle in a little bit better than what they have done. But at the minute, I mean, like I said, with the amount of draws, it appears that's just not the case at the minute.
Oh, I'd say that's very fair. And like I was saying for Tranmere, this game was really lacking in quality going forwards. I mean, Bromley have had 25 shots. 25 shots, and that's translated to 1 goal.
And their goal was a consolation right at the end.
Exactly that. Yeah, the game was gone by then. They really should have won this from the chances they've had. I mean, obviously, like I said, Tranmere are more established as a EFL side, but you're looking at the result in isolation, regardless of who's come from where. Bromley have had 25 chances and have taken 98 minutes to score 1 of them. That's just that can't run. That really can't run.
Yeah. And look, I think there's probably certainly question marks around Bromley at the minute. Obviously, this form is dire, not good enough. I think it's probably for any other club. I think if this performance for Swindon and Mark Kennedy, I think there'd be massive calls to be sacked. But Andy Woodman's clearly got so much credit in the bank at Bromley. He's done a terrific job. Obviously from the promotion last year and a couple of trips to Wembley and as well during that time. He's a well liked figure over there, and certainly one, as I say, with credit in the bank. But if this form doesn't change very soon, then it might have to give the board something to think about. As I think as maybe Bromley fans might hate to hear it. It's just football. That's just how it runs. They're clearly struggling. We know that they've got decent players that can be a threat at this level. But they need wins. I mean, look, they've not been drawing every single game. Of course they haven't. I mean, before that defeat to Tranmere, they've drawn 3 in a row. It's maybe at times where they do draw, trying to convert those draws into wins, whether they can find different ways of doing that, maybe. But ultimately, look, like I said, they're about a win in 9 in the league. You can't brush that under the carpet. It's as simple as that. But I do look at their next few games as well. Really tough. They go to Doncaster next. I mean, they've got Barrow, who are probably not on the best of form at the minute. And And then they've got Cheltenham, who are probably again hit and miss, mainly miss at the minute, although they did hit yesterday. They've got their teams in which I think are somewhat fine. I'd even say Cheltenham are somewhat fighting for something at the minute. They're not easy games, but it's got to change very soon, otherwise it might have to give. I think something needs to change. I think it's clearly obvious. It might not be the manager, it might just be more the playing side. Like tactics or whatever. Something I think has to change because something's clearly not working. It's as simple as that. Not Tranmere, a win away from home, couple of goals. It's the fact they've scored a couple of goals. I mean, their tally's now up to 7. Still the lowest scorers in the league. But knowing our defence, they'll probably get about 4 on Tuesday. In which, if I'm going to be honest, will not be surprised if they do. Let's move on from that one. Let's go to the game the other night. Chesterfield 3-0 winners at Newport. It's very much the case of sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. I feel like that's the same for Newport. They might feel a little bit hard done by with maybe some of it in that game. I mean, one off the line, I think, from what I saw, and there was a couple of other chances, but just stupid mistakes that have cost them, especially that first one. And then they sort of just lost the plot a little bit near the end when with Will Griggs' brace, in which some of their defending weren't great, but they shot themselves in the foot right from the off.
Oh yeah, no, they really did. I was watching this game, and it was a really poor quality game from both sides. But the fact that Newport went behind immediately with what can only be described as an embarrassing mistake, like they gave themselves a huge climb to try and get back into it. And to be honest, for a good sort of like 50 minutes or so, they didn't really offer anything. It was only really when Hudlin came on that they started to look like they might score. But eventually they end up overcommitting, a couple of mistakes from the defence at the back, and the game's gone. And yeah, they just didn't offer enough to suggest that they deserved anything from the game. That being said, I don't think Chesterfield really deserved anything either, but Newport made it easy for them.
Yeah, and I think a little bit too easy looking at that. And eventually, I mean, you may have mentioned about Chesterfield, probably not nowhere near their best. I think they probably have played better times this season. They've still come out as comfortable 3-0 winners. The scoreline doesn't lie. You think 3-0, you think teams have won quite comfortably, but I think it's probably, from what I've seen, I don't think it tells you the entire story. Again, not a game that's had much great quality. I mean, you mentioned Hudlin when he did appear. Carl Hudlin's a really weird player. He's clearly not done too bad at Newport at the minute, but from what I've seen him, I struggle to really see what he's mainly good at. He's clearly got height in him, so he's 6'9" of the bastard. But I've really struggled to see what he was good at. I mean, he wasn't really good at heading despite his height. I don't think he uses his body well enough. That's what I've always felt with him. Maybe some things changed at Newport, and maybe that Nelson Jardim is getting something out of him that we don't. I mean, look, he could have. He very nearly scored. Look at it. I mean, one at the post from. I think it looked like more of a cross, if anything. Did it? I can't remember, but it certainly looked more of a cross. But the weird thing is, I don't think players really know how to handle him either. As much as I don't think he properly knows his own body. Like it's really weird. But even with he can be a handful. He can be a right handful. But I mean, look, they sort of just I mean, look, you watched the game. You knew more than you probably know more than me from this one. But a quick note on Chesterfield. What's it? 6 unbeaten now. 4 of them are draws. I think some decent teams that they're drawn against there. Notts County, Walsall. I mean, the Cheltenham one's probably not that great. They did beat Doncaster, and ultimately, it's a good win away from home for them.
Oh yeah, no, it is. There's no arguments about the result being a really, really positive one for them. Like I said, I do have concerns over the performance because they didn't really actually generate many chances at all. Like, obviously, they had the early goal gifted to them, but after that, they seemed quite happy to just settle and let Newport come back into it a little bit. There wasn't that sort of ruthless nature that we've seen from like a Doncaster or a Port Vale. It was a case of they were just quite happy to sit there and relax for a little bit. And it was only at the end when Newport started to overcommit that they started to take a couple of chances, which they did take very well, to be fair. When the chances came, they took them, which is, the most important bit. But you do need a stronger level of performance in the long term. It feels weird to be saying they've won 3-0, but I don't think they've played well. But I'd say that is the case. And yeah, I mean, it's like what we were saying with Doncaster earlier. Good sides win when they don't play at their best.
I mean, yeah, look, I mean, their players have got to be in a position to score them, and they have. But I can't help but think Newport are just their worst enemy quite a lot of times this season. Like I said, they're a little bit like us. They need to win or they lose, and there's no in between. They either play well or they don't. There's no in between with them at all. But that's just how it rolls. We're just too weird. We're both consistently inconsistent. Again, that's how I describe it. Carlisle 1, Harrogate 1. I think we probably all saw the video with the two Carlisle owners in the week. That was I'll be quite honest, cringy enough. The bloke in particular didn't want to be there. It is clear to see from that, but I think we've become pretty accustomed to Carlisle conceding, and they have done just the one goal, albeit to in this one to Matty Daly, and of course it was written in the stars like Luke Armstrong got their goal for Carlisle. Goes and shushes the away fans in attendance as well. I mean, looking at the stats in particular, it is a game in which Carlisle absolutely dominated. 70% possession to Harrogate's 30. Harrogate had 4 shots compared to their 26. With 10 shots on target for Carlisle compared to Harrogate's 2. It just certainly seemed like they just missed that little bit more ruthlessness to get the 3 points there. I don't think there's much more that can be said.
Oh, yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. The performance was better. The result obviously didn't come with it. But I say it all the time, performances over results for the long-term success. If you can consistently perform, the results will come. So that is a step in the right direction, at least. The concern, though, is for the goal they did concede. There were about 4 of them that were in close proximity to Daly when he's hit that in. How are you going to let that happen in the middle of the box? There's 4 of you and one opposition player, and the one has got it. That shouldn't happen ever.
Especially, I think, with the amount of goals they have conceded and the amount of poor ones they have done, it's just another one to add to the list, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, it really is. And like I said, the one good thing is it did stop there, and they were back in the game. They just need that little bit more. And I think as long as they keep progressing with the performances, there's something that they can keep building on that. But the results do need to come relatively soon because they are still slipping down the table.
Yeah, I think if you look at it just from that, I think it was certainly a good opportunity for some points there. Because with the great respect to Harrogate, I don't think they're not the best of sides in this division. I mean, well, neither are Carlisle. I mean, they started the game bottom of the table, so effectively they were the worst side coming into it. But I think even though they didn't win, I think judging by some of it, I think they could take a little bit of confidence from it. They just quite a little bit that's missing. But certainly on the well, I think for Harry, look, I look at Harrogate. I think I do look at some of the results for Harrogate, especially away from home. They don't give a lot away. I think it's probably fair to say away in particular. I mean, you do look at some of their. I say they don't really give much away. I mean, they've lost at Barrow, they've lost at Cheltenham, they've lost at Crewe, but they've only been by the odd goal, other than the Crewe one where they lost 3-0. But I mean, they drew goalless with Swindon. I mean, it was a dull game, that one. But they can be solid. They need to do more in games, way more, because I'm not sure how much it's just. I mean, they're picking up points on the road, which is never a bad thing, especially if you travel miles. But I'm not sure. I think they've maybe got to back it up a little bit more. I think just sort of points out where they are. I think I do get the sense this is somewhat what Harrogate are under Simon Weaver. Look, I'm full of praise for Harrogate. They're a decent side there, but I just sort of think this is just what they are, if I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Well, the only word I can really use to describe them is unconvincing. Like, they're never putting out a statement result as such, but they are just sort of grinding things out, keep things ticking, grab a point here, grab a 3 points over there. They're just doing enough. Really, they're not like a standout side or anything. I'd say the one thing I noticed, at least from that highlight package, was Belshaw in goal. I think at least in that game he got into the habit of parrying the ball straight back into danger. He did that a couple of times. Fortunately, he was only punished just the once, but that there has to be a little bit of concern there. Sometimes just get it out, just even if you can see the corner, just get rid. But like I said, it's just unconvincing. There's not too much to break down there.
And again, I think it's just what they are. They're unconvincing, but I think they're all right at it. I think they know, what to do. At times they can be defensively sound, but I think, at times they can be better, especially going forward. It's not a bad thing, picking up results on the road. I do somewhat think yesterday was maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity, but I think if you maybe look at, the way the game panned out, maybe a decent point. But I think if you're judging it where they were at the beginning of play, probably not so much. They just somewhat get by Harrogate, don't they? I mean, they just get by. They just do enough, don't they? They pick up the odd win here and there, albeit I think their wins that do come, they neither come against Doncaster, against Bradford, or against Grimsby. I don't think they really beat anyone else, because they're just very good at beating those sides in particular. I can't wait for Harrogate to take 6 points. It was this again this year. But they're just so inevitable at that. But they're just doing enough just to get by, I think. They're just solid, maybe at times. Obviously not when they played MK. I mean, the ship's 5 there. But we'll ignore that one for that. We'll run through the other games very quickly. Accrington won again, 3 in a row for them against an out of form Barrow, I think is probably fair to say. They've struggled, very early on. Harrogate have Accrington. Obviously, it took them quite a long time for them to pick up their first 3 points of the season. And just like London buses, 3 wins cut. 3 as soon as they picked up their first win, another 2 come in very quick succession.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue with that, but I think the main thing was they scored first, and that's when they can start to do the things that they are very good at, which is the whole defensive side to the game. They were able to just sit back, make themselves tough to beat, and pull out every trick in the book to make sure that Barrow would not score. I was watching the end of that game. Every bit of gamesmanship, every time there was an opportunity to just do something annoying, that's what Accrington did, and that's how they were able to pull off the result. Which is making me quite worried, because we've got to play them on Tuesday. If we concede first, that's a 1-0 right there as well. So hopefully not. But there's signs of life in Accrington.
In front of the 4,000 fans in attendance. Sorry, that was funny. But I think if you're Accrington, that is the most pleasing aspect. They've not had a problem with scoring goals. They've scored 14, which is nowhere near the worst. It's keeping them out, and it's been goals that have been costly. The fact that they've been able to keep a clean sheet against Barrow side, which probably have not been on the best of form recently, but the fact that they have started the season well, to keep a clean sheet at home and with what they've done is massively encouraging. I think I've given John Doolan a little bit of stick, thinking he's not quite the right man for the job. I think the jury still is out, but you've got to give credit where it's due. 3 wins in a row, doing very good. It's sort of moved them away a little bit to where they were, and it's certainly given them a little bit of confidence going into it. Really good finish from Sean Wally as well, the old man. Quick note on Barrow. I was talking to my mate at uni who's a Chelsea fan, and he believed that he was that Chelsea were the reason why they've somewhat fallen apart since then. I'm not sure how true I believe that, although if we do look at it since then, in the league, they have lost 4 of their last 5, with their early win coming at at Cheltenham. I mean, they lost to Morecambe last week, so maybe a little bit of cause concern there. I think with the good start they have fallen off a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, in this game they really didn't offer much at all. To be totally honest, they're like, I mean, yes, Accrington may have sat back a little bit and Barrow may have had control, but they didn't do much with that control. And like I said, because they were chasing the game for most of it, they just didn't have the ideas to unlock that defence. And when you are starting to lose games, that does obviously have to be a cause of a concern. Because if you can't unlock a team when you go behind, then you can't stop them from scoring in the first place. That it doesn't add up. You're not going to win. Like they just need some kind of bounce back there. I'm not sure where that will necessarily come from at the minute. Because like I said, they really don't look good at the minute.
Yeah, it's really weird how they've sort of just tailed off a little bit. I mean, I put like their early defeats in the league from after they lost at Chelsea because Doncaster. I met Doncaster and Gillingham. I mainly put that down to maybe travelling. I mean, they had a hell of a lot to go. I mean, Barrow's in the back arse and nowhere, with the greatest respect. But I think, you know, it's somewhat continued. I mean, they did beat Cheltenham at home, but I mean, they gave Morecambe their first win last week, which was probably not great. And then they've gone to Accrington, who, again, with a great respect, not the best team in the league. And they've gone and lost it. So maybe a little bit there, but also I think maybe a little bit of a reality check, maybe perhaps for a club like Barrow. I know it's pretty much easy to say. I think, you know, with the success previously under Pete Wild, but I think with Stephen Clements, look, we said for a few weeks, you know, we didn't think we'd be anywhere near the plus. So the fact that they have done early doors, you know, it's been very well. Look, I'll go and say I think Barrow in particular have been the best team I've seen Grimsby play. I think for not really so much of their attack, I just thought, you know, they were just incredibly well drilled. You know, they looked a real tough team to break down on the day when they beat us 2-1. But it just seems, just at the minute, it's just something, again, it's just not right there a little bit. Maybe it needs to be tweaked, but again, probably not a huge cause of concern, especially when it's still 7th and in the playoffs. I think if the season ended tomorrow, I think Barrow will take that every day of the week. But a little bit of cause for concern for that. 2 more games to quickly run through. We'll head to Colchester 1, Cheltenham 2. Really good win for Cheltenham. Maybe a couple of question marks over Colchester, you know, with their form, not the best. I mean, not struggling for wins, I think is probably fair to say. But I think for Cheltenham, who are particularly struggling, a little bit inconsistent, you know, I do look at if we're going back from Harrogate on the 7th of September, it's gone win, loss, draw, loss, win, loss, and then obviously at Colchester yesterday, picking up the 2-1 victory with a brace from Jordan Thomas. I mentioned about Rico Richards, how much he had a great last name, great first name. It's got to be said. But against this Colchester side, I think for where Cheltenham are, it's a 2-1 win away from home. It's a decent one at that.
Well, yeah, it's what we're saying. The teams at the bottom, you just need a win every now and then to keep you going. And if you can get it against someone that's in a similar position, then even better. You know, like I say, it's just a much needed win against, you know, a Colchester side that haven't done as well as we thought they would. I still think they have another level that they've not found yet, but I think especially at this stage of the season, they'll absolutely take it, Cheltenham. They conceded a lot of chances in that game, I will say, but they did manage to hold on. So there was, you know, a sort of a resolute side to Cheltenham that was able to pull that result off. So they can be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, of course, away win. I don't think there's really too much to really argue about. You mentioned about Colchester, the fact there's maybe another gear for them to go to. I've said that for quite a few weeks. But I think the more as time goes on, especially, I know we're still 11, 12 games in, but as more as time goes on, I'm reconsidering that at the minute. They've just not been winning enough games. They've been drawing a lot of them, and I mean, they were about to win in their last 4, but we know they've got. Was there maybe a little bit of expectation on Colchester this season? Yes, maybe. I think with the signings they have made, with the manager they have got, I think there's a reason why they've put them that highly. But I'm not sure if you got. But I think if we look at it in isolation, they've had a couple of years, in particular in League 2, in which they've really struggled. They were dangerously close last year to dropping out of the league. So maybe too much pressure too soon. But I get it, because it's understandable with obviously with some of the players and the manager they've got with Danny Cowley. I get it, but is it maybe something to maybe think about? Because I'm just not sure with Colchester at the minute. It's at 20th. I'm just not sure.
Well, yeah, I think they've just got a couple of problems they need to solve, really. 'Cause I think they have flashes of quality going forward, and we saw that with their goal, to be fair. And I think with the quality of chances they were creating, they were some very nice chances. It's just the other end, back with the defence, that to me is quite a problem. You look at both goals, I think both were very easily preventable. I mean, the whole defence was just static. How are you going to let a cross go in totally unchallenged? You just have a free cross, free chance to get the ball in the box. Why not? Because they'll score. That's why not. But that's just the nature of their defending at the minute. It's so static. There's no urgency to it, and I think that's probably where a lot of their problems lie. They just need that bit of energy in that back third to propel them forward, so that they can use the quality they've got going forward with their Jack Paynes, their Lyle Taylors, Tavide, although I think he went off injured in that game because they've now recalled a youth striker from a loan, but which probably doesn't help. But it's just another thing to add to the list.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't help, especially because he's not been too bad for him, especially with that partnership with Taylor. It's not been too bad. But I mean, I'll look at that second goal in particular. Not great. If from a Colchester perspective, I think it's certainly safe to say. But there's certainly quite a lot of work still to be done. But I think they're probably one-sided, which is grateful. It's still early days. One more to get through. Crewe 1, Salford 1. I think it's a decent result for Salford. I thought Ben Woodburn took his goal really well. Just completely left unmarked at the back post for Ryan Cooney's equaliser. But other than that, I don't think there was particularly that much. 1-1. I think Salford are probably the happier. I think especially with Crewe's recent good run of form. I think Salford probably needed something with the fact that especially with their few results at the minute. Again, a little bit inconsistent, but yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world, that result for them.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, I think Salford will absolutely take a point. I mean, there'll be frustration there because they did have a lead that they've thrown away, but either way, it's still a decent point on the road against a side that have been performing well. So, and they did manage to hold on because, I mean, Crewe did try and apply some pressure, and again, there was some strong, resolute performances from the Salford defence to at least come away with something. If you can't win, don't lose, and that's what they've done there.
Yeah, exactly. I think, especially away from home, I think it's somewhat more the motto more than anything. I think if you're Crewe, I think you're looking at obviously their recent run of form. I don't think it's nothing to be concerned about. Just the one defeat in their last 7. Yes, 7. I mean, back-to-back draws. I mean, the draw at Doncaster last week, a side in which probably are going to be up there, and then they might be a little bit disappointed with this one, but I think if you're probably taking it with the form that they have been on. Oh no, they won before that as well, so that'll be another one to 7. So so they've lost 1 of the last 8, which is very good going with 5 wins in that as well. So maybe a little bit disappointed yesterday, but nothing to really be concerned about at the moment.
Well, yeah, you'd hope it's just a blip. To be fair, I don't think they were controlling enough in this game. I think they could have done a whole lot more. Like I said, in isolation, this was a very poor game from them. But when you're looking at the bigger picture, as you say, the results have been there. So perhaps this is just one off day because we're in League 2. Everyone's going to have an off day. No one's invincible, especially in a league as open as this. And to be fair to them, after they did concede early, they did bounce back quickly and got the goal and did push to try and win it. Just didn't have the quality on that occasion. So, I mean, they'll take a point. It keeps things ticking along, even if the performance wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. I think you probably look at it the fact if you look at the league table, they're only a point outside the playoffs as well. They go to Fleetwood in midweek, which is will be a tough game for them, but I think one in which I don't think they go into it with any fear. I think with the form that they're, the players have really been buying into what Lee Bell wants to do at the minute, albeit it did take a little bit of time because obviously it's not been all plain sailing this season, obviously with that rocky start where we once debated about Lee Bell's job. I'm so sorry, Lee. please accept our apologies. Look, he's a great gaffer. I've got a lot of time for Lee Bell, and he's clearly doing a very good job at Crewe, probably with the lack of resources. I mean, we've mentioned the resources death of Crewe, but it's true compared to some of the teams in and around him. I see, teams like Port Vale are not short on cash. Notts County definitely don't. Gillingham are definitely not. But then even with someone even like Barrow, they're not the richest, but they're very much held on their own, and they're very much are competitive, which is somewhat half what I expected Crewe to be. Probably not to the extent of what they were last season, but they're not doing too bad for themselves. I think it's probably fair to say with that. I think we'll end it there. Bit of. I think we've done well to somewhat get this episode on, actually, with all the stuff that's going on with us at the minute. We should be back for a double episode next week, because obviously there is a full fixture list on Tuesday to look forward to. We'll make sure we'll look to do something from that, and then obviously we'll be back for next weekend, in which we'll obviously have a look at the results there, and we'll talk through. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you are on YouTube. Make sure you go download the podcast if you are on our streaming platforms. That's all from me. Luke, anything from you?
Well, yeah, just keep interacting with us. Let us know what you think. We're always looking to improve these things. We're always looking to hear your guys' opinions as well. We're always happy to interact on our various socials at Fourth Tier Fever. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, of course. Any opinions, anything you want to ask, just anything, just send them in. I'd be more than happy to go through them, and we do read your comments. Well, Luke certainly does. I'm not sure about me, but no, we'd love to hear what you think. So make sure you let us know what you think. Also, thank you for your continued support. We really do appreciate it. We'll end it there. Thank you guys for listening. We'll speak to you next week.